Post-ceremony will begin in a few minutes. The last post-ceremony is broadcast on the Australian War Memorials YouTube channel and Facebook Live. Please feel free to take photographs or film the service. We encourage you to share your photos to the Memorial's Facebook page. To maintain the dignity of the service, please consider the following. Please switch off your mobile phones or turn them to silent. Parents should closely supervise young children. Please be respectful and quiet throughout the ceremony and remove hats for the national anthem, the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post. For your safety and that of others, please do not sit on the garden edges or stonework and remove any items placed along the upper ledges. If you are feeling faint or unwell during the ceremony, please sit down or approach one of the visitor services officers. And in the event of an emergency, follow the direction of Memorial staff. Thank you. The last post ceremony will commence shortly.
Ernestina ikut itu di situ.
Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Troy Clayton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Group Captain Paul Dighton. This evening's last post ceremony commemorates the 105th anniversary of the Battle of Landycore, which occurred on the 15th of April 1917. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We also acknowledge the members of the RSL and Services Club Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the ceremony broadcast across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. Thank you. If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that helped all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the memorials galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the roll of honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Reeds or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Cecil Gordon Lindsay. Cecil Lindsay was born on the 27th of April 1892 in Tranny in New South Wales, one of 5 children born to wire worker Henry Lindsay and his wife Mary. Cecil attended George Street Public School at Tranny, but later moved to the Sydney suburb of Redfern, where he found employment as a potter and a labourer. Cecil Lindsay enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force on the 26th of November 1915. Assigned to reinforcements of the 20th Battalion, he began a short period of training in Australia. In early February 1916, he married Mary Agnes Jackson at Redfern's St Vincent's Church, and they later adopted a daughter named Florence. 2 months after his wedding, Private Lindsay embarked for active service from Sydney, sailing on board the troopship Ceramic. After several weeks at sea, Private Lindsay arrived in England, where he continued training with his new comrades. He left England for France on the 9th of September 1916, joining his unit in Belgium in early October, where it spent time training and making defensive improvements to the trenches. His unit returned to France towards the end of the month, and he returned to the front lines by mid-November, living and fighting in freezing conditions brought on by a bitterly cold winter. Private Lindsay took part in his first major battle of the war later that month, when his unit joined an attack on German positions near the town of Fleur in an area known as the Maze. Official historian Charles Bean later described the conditions there as the worst encountered by the AIF. His unit spent the rest of the year alternating between periods of rest behind the lines and duty in the trenches. Early 1917 was marked by the German strategic withdrawal to the fortified Hindenburg line. Their retreat was eagerly followed by Allied units who seized the opportunity to push the enemy back. In advancing on the Germans, these units were confronted by well-prepared rearguard defences and booby-trapped towns, which resulted in a series of bloody clashes between Allied forces and the enemy. Private Lindsay's unit was caught in one of these attacks at the village of Lagnicourt in April. Allied lines around the village had been significantly weakened by the British offensive around Arras, which drew resources away from this sector of the front, leaving Allied units there vulnerable to attack. Sensing a swift and easy victory, 23 German battalions attacked Lagnicourt at dawn on the 15th of April 1917, aiming to hold the village for long enough to destroy resources and weaken Allied defences. Their overwhelming numbers saw them quickly sweep through the town and capture several batteries of the 1st Australian Division's artillery. Private Lindsay's unit was one of just 4 Australian battalions faced with repulsing this overwhelming enemy force. The 20th Battalion received word at 04:30 that the enemy had broken through its lines. Private Lindsay's company was sent out on a patrol to locate the enemy's positions when he was hit in the legs by enemy fire. His comrade, Private Grant, recalled the scene. He was hit at Lagnicourt on the 15th of April 1917. I was beside him when he died of shock. I had hold of his hand at the time he died. He was hit in the leg and died before the doctor got to see him. Despite being outnumbered, the 4 Australian battalions managed to repulse the German attack within just a few hours, forcing the enemy to retreat early. Private Cecil Lindsay was buried near where he fell, and today lies at Keon Road Cemetery among more than 2,000 other soldiers from the First World War. His young wife Mary remembered him in a memorial notice she posted in the Sydney Morning Herald, which read, "Somewhere in France he is lying. My dear husband, so young and brave, far away from the land of his birth, with no loved ones to weep over his grave. Rest in peace." Private Cecil Gordon Lindsay was 24 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Cecil Gordon Lindsay, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading video and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Blessed be you. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the lowest scrubability, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of us. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director and staff, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. And we wish you all